Finally came. I finally got to read it. This is The Dark Lady by Akala. His first novel, his first fictional work, and it takes inspiration from a series of Shakespearean sonnets that revolve around a dark lady. It's set in Elizabethan London in the 1590s. Follows a mixed race boy called Henry. He's homeless. He's a pauper. He's a thief, a pickpocket, but he's also blessed with an extraordinary gift. And it follows. It's basically just his story. It's a setup for what looks to be a series that follows Henry and this mysterious dark lady that is referenced throughout the novel. It's very, very vivid in its imagery. I found that the atmosphere and the setting of London, of Elizabethan London, was very, very vivid and very, very powerful. Particularly the Bear Pits and the Globe Theatre and places like that where they go to watch performances and watch bear fights and things like that. Very vivid, very powerful. There's a lot of deep emotional connections that you build to a number of characters throughout this novel as well, particularly Henry, not only Henry, but also Joan, his adopted mother, his carer, if you will, his adopted brother Matthew, his adoptive sister Mary. There's a number of characters. His Graham, his friend who works in a foundry of sorts, and these inter-character connections are very, very important throughout this book. I think an undercurrent theme of the book is family and friends and trust and loyalty and things like that. So that is very, very powerful, quite potent throughout the novel. It's definitely worth a read just for that alone. If you don't want to read it for that, you can read it for the fact that this is a period piece that doesn't focus on rich people. I'm so sick of Downton Abbey and all these other period pieces that just focus on the high life, on the elite. This is a series that focuses on the life of the poor. And I'm getting, I'm getting very strong Dickens vibes, Oliver Twist vibes. If you follow my book review, my book review side of my YouTube channel, you'll have noticed that I reviewed Charles Dickens' Oliver Twist not so long ago. I'm getting very potent Oliver Twist vibes from this, particularly in the sense that, trying not to spoil anything for you guys, but particularly in the sense that Henry in this book, much like Oliver Twist, is very gifted. They're both very gifted, both very poor. The gift involves reading, and in this sense, it's magical reading. In this novel, in Oliver Twist, it's quite literally reading, because Dickens is very much a realist. And they both go from lives of poverty, lives of anguish and being hungry, and they go to lives of being rich and being quite privileged and living a high life, if you will. There is a bit of a stark difference in their reactions to that change. Oliver Twist warmed obviously to it because he wasn't happy in his surroundings, in his relationships that he had when he was poor, and he was very happy with the relationships he built when he was in the high life. And it seems to be the inverse is true for Henry and the Dark Lady. He was very happy with his friendships and his relationships and the people around him when he was poor, as much as he was hungry and destitute and didn't have any sort of stable home. He was happy with the people, he loved the people that he was around, and then when he ends up living a high life, he's not very happy around the people. So that's as far as I'm going to say on that without spoiling a lot for you guys. It's definitely worth a read. It's definitely a good young adult novel here. I'm picking up a lot of reflection. If you know Akala and you know his story and you know a bit about his life, I'm seeing a lot of reflection in this book. A hell of a lot. Particularly in the fact that, Henry is gifted, he can read. He feels slightly out of place in the slums of London, given the fact that he has this gift that he can read and he's quite intelligent, and he doesn't feel like he should be, if that makes sense, for want of a better word. I'm getting a lot of reflection, and then he graduates up to this high life, and he feels like he's kind of selling himself out and selling himself at the expense of the people who he grew up with, and he feels a bit of guilt So there's a lot of reflection there. I don't want to comment too much on Akala's life story because I don't feel like that's my place. But I'm seeing, from what I know of Akala and what I know of his story, I'm seeing a lot of reflection there. I don't know if that's true, but that's just what I'm seeing from this book, and it's very, very interesting. This is going to be definitely a book that is going to impact, I think, many young adult lives in a very positive manner, and I'm probably right in saying that was Akala's purpose. That was his goal when he decided he was going to write a book for young adults. He wanted to write a book for people who aren't often written about, and that's not only the poor people in the period pieces. It's also mixed race people, black people, immigrants, people like that. So he wanted to write for minorities who aren't often looked at when it comes to period pieces, and he's definitely pulled it off well. It's a nice little piece of magical realism. It's fantasy, there's magic in there, all that chi, all that kind of stuff, alchemy, but it's not too involved on that side of things. It's quite realistic as well. So it's magical realism. Definitely worth a read. All I can say about this one at this point now is the sooner a sequel comes out, the sooner a second installment is released, the better. I can't wait to get my hands on the Dark Lady Mark II. Out of 100, I'm going to give it a 95%. It was very enjoyable, even for me as a nearly 28-year-old man. I found it very, very enjoyable.